Hi guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dana and this is Delighted to DIY. If you like thrift flips and budget home decor DIYs, why don't you consider hitting that red subscribe button. Today I'm going to be showing you 5 Christmas calendar and countdown calendars that I was able to make under $5 each. For this first one, I started with this ornament from the Dollar Tree and begun by just taking off the sign. Then I took a wine color by Craftsmart. It was very similar to the red that was already on there, and I covered up the wording, as well as when I pulled off the embellishment from the hat, I gave the hat a touch up with the same color as well. Next, I took these price and labeling tags that I got from Dollar Tree and begun by removing the strings off of them. You'll need 18 in total. On my Cricut, I cut out the numbers that you'll need, which is 00, don't mind I forgot one of the zeros, but you'll need 001122 and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I just added one number to each of the tags. I also cut out Christmas countdown. I should have angled it a little more, but it was tricky to kind of figure out how to angle or how much to angle it. It's okay, I don't mind it, but if I was to do it in the future, I know I'll angle it more. I added it onto the top of the sleigh. With my Bell & Howell multi-tool and some small finishing nails, I am going to put them into Santa's beard to hold our tags. I figured out placement by placing the tags where I wanted them to hang. I used my pencil to mark out where I needed the nail to go, then just held the nail and hammered it in. I didn't hammer it far in because I knew I wanted it to have enough room to hold the tags. As well, I didn't want it going through the back too much. It did pop through the back a little, but I just used some dabs of hot glue to cover these up so that no one would get hurt. Then I took the embellishment from the hat, just kind of tried to rearrange it to make it look a little nicer. I re-glued it under the fur of Santa's cap, and then just took some other greenery bits that I had in my stash just to make it look a little nicer than it was. And that was it for this project. I hope you like it. It was super quick. My other thought with this one was also that you could put magnets on the back of the sleighs and it could be on your fridge, as well as you could possibly hang it with the hanger that's already attached. For DIY number 2, I started with one of these house shapes that you can get from Dollar Tree, and I began by removing the tag. Once I had the tag off, I gave it a quick sand with my sanding block just to get off any of the excess glue residue. When that was complete, I went on to masking off the edges of the house. I'm going to be using the back of the house for this project. I took my paint from Craftsmart in the color wine and painted the entire back, which is now the front of the project, as well as a little bit of the edge of the sides that I left. With 2 popsicle sticks and a piece of garden stake, I'm going to make some roof pieces and a chimney. I originally cut them at a 45-degree angle, and that was wrong. So if you do recreate this project, know that it is a 60-degree angle, not a 45. I cut it with my miter cutting tool, my miter cutting tool, and then just did straight cuts on the ends. I did the same 60-degree cut for the chimney piece so that it would be level, and then again went back to 0 and trimmed it down to the height I wanted. Using my bare water-based stain in Special Walnut, I stained all sides of these 3 pieces. When they were dry, I began attaching them. I wanted to attach the chimney piece to one of the roof pieces because that way it would have a little more to grip onto. So I did this by just holding the chimney piece where I wanted it against the roof piece and then marked it with my pencil, and that's where I added some of my tacky glue and some hot glue to adhere it on. When that was attached, then I took again some tacky glue and a bit of hot glue and attached the roof piece to the left side. Then I repeated the process with the right side of the roofing, and that was it for the roof. On my computer, I made another decal for this project. This one says Days Until Christmas, and I applied it to the top of our house shape. To embellish in between the wording, I took some of the greenery that I used in the first project. I'll be using this greenery throughout, which helps to save money, of course, when you're only having to buy one or two picks. I cut it apart in pieces and then just begun hot gluing a little swag in the middle of the words. Then in the middle, to finish it off, I just cut off a piece of the holly balls and glued it to the center. I think they're holly balls. If they're not, let me know in the comments below what they are. Using one of these chalkboard clipboards that you get in a pack of 4 from Dollar Tree, I began by removing the clip and then gluing it onto the piece. Again, I used my tacky glue and some hot glue, the hot glue for a quick hold and the tacky glue for a longer hold. Lastly, with a piece of regular old chalk, I added some numbers and that was it for this project. Again, super quick, super easy, anyone could do. And I think it's just adorable the way it turned out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would you give this one a try? I'd love to thank the hosts, which are Emily from Farm Charm Chic, Missi from Crafty Cove, and their guest host Krista from Krista's Crafty Life. I'll have a link to all their channels in my description box below, as well as a link to the playlist where I'm sure you'll find much more great content. This month's theme was Farmhouse Christmas. For DIY number 3, I started with one of these block decor pieces. I began by removing the sticker from the back and then painting the front and back fully with black acrylic paint and then parts of the edges. Looking back now doing this project, I would recommend doing all the edges fully, as the vinyl I used to cover the edges was transparent and you could see a bit of the chevron pattern through it. But if you have thicker vinyl, that wouldn't matter, or if you use paper, that wouldn't matter either. So when the paint was dry, I took this buffalo check vinyl that I got from Dollar Tree and marked off the width I needed. I cut a strip of it and then begun by peeling back a little bit of the backing and then laying it down and then working my way around the edges of the block. When I got to the corners, I pulled it fairly taut and then just really pushed it down around the edges of the corners to make it nice and snug. When the first strip was done, I then cut a second strip, which here I realized didn't match up. I had the wrong patterns lining up. So then I cut a second strip in the same manner as the first, getting the width and cutting a strip. Then I lined up so they would meet where the first one ended and the second one began, and then just continued around the remainder of the block that was not covered yet with the vinyl. Next, I took my nail file. You can also use sandpaper or a mini sander or zip sander, anything along those lines, and I just sanded in a downwards motion to remove any of the excess vinyl. When I did this, some of the orange from the original block was showing through, so I just went back in with a small brush and some of my black paint and touched up where the orange was showing. If white was showing, I thought that was okay because it kind of gave it a distressed look, but I definitely wanted to cover up the orange. Next, I took one of these wooden Christmas trees from Dollar Tree and removed the sticker. I find using my scraper tool or my Cricut tool helps get it off better than even the heat sometimes. And then I sanded it down to remove any of the excess glue residue. With the same stain that I used in previous projects, my bare water-based stain in Special Walnut, I stained the entire tree, front, back, sides. When the stain was dry, I then took my pencil and began outlining the tree shape just in a smaller version. Then when I was happy with my outline, I took this chalkboard paint that I got at Dollar Tree a while back. I haven't seen it lately, but any chalkboard paint you can get your hands on will work. And I just took a brush, took my time, and filled in where I had drawn. Then I took 3 of the tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree and stained them in the same stain color. I stained all the sides. I then began by gluing one of the blocks to the bottom of the tree so that it was the same, like it was lined up with the bottom of the tree. If that makes sense, you can see what I'm doing here. I did that with tacky glue and some hot glue. Then I used 2 more blocks, glued them together, and then glued them onto the back of the tree. I just wanted to make sure that the tree would be nice and secure if a child or adult or anyone really was writing on it. I, for some reason, felt that it wasn't going to be secure enough with just the one block. So I did it with a couple more blocks. And then I maybe overkilled it, but just for purposes of selling, I want to make sure my projects are nice and together and aren't going to break anytime soon. So I took a hammer and nails and also nailed down this piece to the top of the block. With the piece securely fastened on as best as I could think to do, I then took the same greenery as I had mentioned from the other projects and just took two of the sprigs off of the pick and hot glued them under the tree towards the back just so the hot glue wasn't showing. Next, I took some matte Mod Podge from Dollar Tree and covered the front of the sign. I did this so that if any of the chalk was to fall or sprinkle from the writing on the tree, you could easily wipe it off. When it's matte paint, sometimes the chalk wants to stick and you can't really get it off as good as when it's a smooth, slicker surface. Then I took my pencil and outlined the words that I wanted on the sign. This is me showing you my hand lettering skills. They are not great, but I thought I'd go for it and show you that it is possible. I'm not a fan, but of course, I think we're all super hard on ourselves. I did do it, but then, of course, smudged it. So here I am trying to clean it up. I did go in with some black paint to clean it up. And then when I covered it with Mod Podge at the end, all of it started to spread. I tried to clean it up as best as possible, but it began to be a hot mess. This is definitely a project I wouldn't sell, but I like the concept, and if I was to do again, I'd probably use my Cricut. Just saying. For DIY number 4, I started with one of these Christmas gnomes and then just used my scraper to scrape off some of the glitter from the holly berries. Then I took some of this really cool red burlap sheet of scrapbook paper. Not too sure what to call it, but I found it at Dollar Tree and was super excited when I found it. Of course, I only found one, but I am going to hopefully get some lots of use out of it. I put it on top of the present because that's what I wanted to cover up and just outlined with my pencil so I knew where to cut. I then cut it out, and then when I laid it back down, I just marked where I could roughly cut out the hand shape so it still looked like the gnome was holding on to a present. I cut it a little too big, unfortunately, but I do go back in with some paint that you will see soon just to blend it in so it's more of the same color. I glued this on and then taking one of these calendars, block calendars that you can get from Dollar Tree as well. I took it apart, took the backing off, and then painted all the outsides, insides, and the front edge with black acrylic paint. Next, I took the wine color acrylic paint that I've been using in previous projects and just touched up as close as possible with a small detail brush where the red from the original present was showing. When that was done, I took the frame for the calendar blocks and hot glued it onto the center of the present. With some buffalo check ribbon that you can get from Dollar Tree, I just made a simple shoelace bow by making one loop and then another loop and then crossing them over and pulling the one loop through the other. I know it's kind of hard to explain it that way, but if you've tied your laces, I'm sure you'll figure it out. When I had it to the size I wanted to cover up the green bow from the original gnome piece, I then dovetailed the ends and hot glued it over top just to cover it up. Lastly, I wanted to make it a standing sign, so I took this garden stake that I had in my stash and cut it down to 6 inches. Then I took some ribbon and hot glued it to one of the ends of the garden stake. Then I took a piece of twine about 5, 6 inches and hot glued it onto the first top third of the garden stake. Then I hot glued the stand to the back of the gnome. I made sure that the stand was lined up with the bottom of the gnome, just marked it with my pencil, and then had it added hot glue and pushed the ribbon down into it by folding it down before gluing it on. Then I placed the stand where I felt it looked best with the gnome on an angle and marked with my pencil where I'm going to add the twine pieces. I did the same on both sides of the stand for each piece of the twine, then trimmed it down, and that was it for this project. If you've been enjoying these projects so far, it'd be awesome if you could give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps to support my channel. For this last DIY, I began with one of these wooden fall signs that you got from Dollar Tree. I began by removing the hanger from the top and cutting off the pumpkin shape. I did this with my box cutter and a metal ruler and scored it about 5 or 6 times, then just began bending it back and forth till it broke off. Any pieces that were still remaining, I just sanded off smooth with 80 grit sandpaper. I covered the entire sign with some matte Mod Podge. I did this only from experience, knowing that sometimes raw wood can bleed when you do a stencil, and that was my plans for the sign. Then I took one of these sleigh shapes that I got from Dollar Tree as well and cut it off of the backing and then masked off the sleigh part of it. I painted the top of the sleigh red and the skis a silver. Then on my computer, I designed this decal, or well, this stencil. I placed it down on my board, then smoothed it out as best as possible, then Mod Podged on top to hopefully prevent, again, any bleed through. Then taking some makeup sponges, I cut them in half just so that I have more to use. I began stenciling in the colors I wanted in the places I wanted. I did black for the numbers. I did red for the word Santa. I did the same metallic silver for the word flies as I did on the sleigh. Then I did the word the skies in black again. I did the word in and the dots in green, and then did the last word days in the same red as the Santa word. Removing the stencil is always my favorite part. I always pray that there's very little bleed through, and in this case there was. So all the things I did to prep this piece worked. I removed the sign, then weeded out all the centers. Next I took a mini clothes peg. It's not the smallest size, but it is smaller than a regular clothes peg, and hot glued the sleigh onto the front of it. Then to finish off the sign and to help the paint stay in place when the clothes bag is being put on and off or moved around all the time, I just added one more layer of Mod Podge over the front of the entire sign, and that was it. Please let me know which one was your favorite. I don't know if I have a favorite. I think it's this one, only because I love the way I designed this stencil. I hope this video gave you lots of inspiration for countdown calendars. And if you want to keep watching, here's some videos I think you might like. As always, thanks for watching. And if you want to see more of this content, like more DIYs and thrift flips, why don't you consider hitting that big red subscribe button to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Bye.